It started with a napkin, cream-colored, slightly wrinkled, tucked under a chipped mug of cocoa that had stopped steaming 20 minutes ago. In blue pen, a rushed message. "Back in 20 minutes. Be good, love you." "Mom." Ellie swung her feet beneath the cafe chair, shoes scuffing the tile in uneven rhythms. She didn't touch the cocoa. Her backpack sat like a lump in the seat beside her, the zipper slightly open, showing a stuffed dolphin with a fraying tail. The cafe wasn't crowded, but the silence between coffee sips felt louder than traffic. 3 older patrons sat scattered across the room like mismatched chess pieces. A tall, sharp-eyed woman in a beige cardigan reading a newspaper with surgical focus. A round-bellied man with oil stains on his fingers, rolling a sugar packet back and forth. A wiry gentleman with an orange scarf and sunglasses indoors who stared at Ellie like she was a puzzle missing the last piece. 20 minutes passed, then 25. Still no Mom. The woman folded her paper with a crisp snap. "That's the 3rd time she's checked the door," she muttered, like clockwork. "She's just a kid," the man with the sugar packet said softly. "Exactly," she snapped back. "That's what makes it so concerning." Orange scarf guy leaned forward, both hands on his cane. "Maybe her mom's in the restroom." "For 30 minutes," she said. "She'd need a medical team by now." They all looked toward the girl. Ellie was drawing something on the napkin with a pink crayon she'd found in her pocket. Her lips were tight, eyes too still. She didn't look scared, but she looked rehearsed, like this wasn't the first napkin message she'd waited out. The bell above door jingled. All 3 adults looked up. Delivery, not Mom. The man with the sugar packet stood. His chair creaked like it hadn't been asked to move in years. "I'm going over." The woman groaned. "Don't start something, Walter." Walter ignored her. He approached Ellie's table slowly, like one might approach a feral cat, palms out, voice low. "Hey there, kiddo. You waiting for someone?" Ellie glanced up. "She'll be back soon." Walter nodded. "I'm Walter. That's Irene over there. And that," he waved to Orange Scarf, "is Denny." Denny tipped an invisible hat. Ellie didn't smile, but she didn't frown either. "I'm not supposed to talk to strangers." Walter smiled. "That's smart. Then maybe I'll just sit here and not be strange." He took the chair across from her, slowly. The cocoa between them still hadn't moved. "You draw?" he asked, pointing at the napkin. Ellie turned it around. The sketch was rough but clear. A girl sitting in a cafe, 3 cups in front of her, and 3 shadows nearby. One wore sunglasses. Walter let out a short laugh. "That's me." Ellie looked up. "You're smaller in the drawing." "Better that way," he said, pretending to suck in his belly. From across the cafe, Irene had stood. She walked over, mug in hand, eyes skeptical. "Well?" "She's fine," Walter said. "She's just waiting." "For over 30 minutes. Denny joined them. "Maybe we just sit near her. That's all. No alarms, no authorities, just company." Irene sighed. "We're not babysitters." "No," Walter said, "but we were kids once. Some of us even raised a few." Ellie's eyes moved from face to face, like she was studying them, trying to decide which part was real. Then she said quietly, "My mom just had to check on a job interview. It's not a big deal." Nobody said anything for a second. Then Irene, arms crossed, said, 20 minutes is reasonable, 45 is a pattern." Ellie looked down. Walter leaned over. "Well, If it's okay with you, maybe we just hang out nearby, just until she's back." Ellie nodded once. 3 cups, 1 kid, and a silence that wasn't as heavy anymore. They moved to the corner booth. Not because it was more comfortable, the cushions were thin and the table wobbled, but because it gave them a better view of the girl, of the door, of each other. Ellie stayed in her seat, still sketching, but every so often her eyes darted toward them, cautious, calculating. Denny leaned back with a grunt. "So what's the plan, General Walter?" Walter stirred his coffee. "No plan. Just watch over her until her mom comes back." Irene folded her hands. "You say that like it's normal. We don't know the mother or the situation. What if this is intentional?" "She said it was an interview," Walter replied. "She's 8, Walter. Kids cover for their parents all the time." Denny tapped his cane against the table once. "Reminds me of Ava." Walter raised an eyebrow. "Your sister?" Denny shook his head. "My daughter. She used to sit like that, legs swinging, holding it all in. Her mother would vanish for hours, sometimes days. Ava never told me until it was too late." Irene softened slightly, but only slightly. "She reminds me of Peter," she said, her voice thinner. "My grandson. Before the accident. He'd draw on napkins, too, spaceships, machines, wild stuff." She glanced at Ellie again. "He died in the 3rd grade." Silence stretched between them. Walter cleared his throat. "Well, she reminds me of me. Left on church steps. Different century, same story." Ellie was watching them now. She didn't try to hide it. Walter stood and walked over, slow and gentle. "You hungry?" Ellie hesitated, then nodded. He brought back a grilled cheese, split in 2, and a paper plate. She took half, murmured, "Thank you," and began eating small bites, slow. Walter returned to the booth. "She's polite," he said, "well-mannered. She's been here over an hour and hasn't asked for a phone, tablet, or candy." Irene sipped her tea. "Makes you wonder how often this happens." Denny said, "Or how long she's been used to it." Then came the first real shift. The door opened. Ellie looked up. A woman entered, heels, messy hair, a phone glued to her ear. She scanned the room, saw Ellie, and waved. Ellie didn't wave back. The woman approached. "Hey, Peanut, sorry, traffic was murder." Ellie didn't smile. The woman noticed the 3 adults at the booth. Who are you people?" Walter stood slowly. "Just some folks keeping her company." The woman gave a strained smile. "Well, thanks, but she's fine. She's used to waiting." Walter's jaw tensed. "That's not something to be proud of." The woman's smile dropped. "Excuse me?" Irene stepped in. "We're not judging. We just care." Denny quietly. "Too many people stop caring." Ellie slid out of her seat and walked to her mother, but she turned just before the door. She looked at the 3 of them, one by one, and whispered, "Thank you." Then she left. But the booth didn't empty. They sat there another hour, talking about napkins, kids, guilt, until Walter said, "We should have asked her name." Denny smiled. "We will." Because deep down, they knew this wasn't over. The next morning, Irene arrived first. She wasn't planning on it, but something about the silence in her apartment, the way the air pressed in on the windows, made her purse find her coat, and her coat find her keys. When she walked into the café, she felt silly. Of course the girl wouldn't come back. Why would she? But then, at 9:42 a.m., The bell jingled, and there she was. Ellie. Same sneakers, same quiet posture. No mother. Irene blinked. You're back. Ellie nodded. She said she had a meeting again. She left you again? Ellie shrugged. She said it's just for today. Irene pulled out a chair. Well, good thing I came hungry. Ellie smiled, small but real. They sat in silence for a while. Irene stirred her tea longer than necessary. Ellie pulled out her sketch pad and started drawing again. 10 minutes later, Denny arrived, cane, grumble, and all. What the? He muttered when he saw Ellie. Well, I'll be. Ellie lifted a hand in greeting. Denny's whole face softened. He sat down beside her like it was the most natural thing in the world. 10 more minutes, and Walter arrived. Anyone missing a napkin artist? He asked, pretending not to be surprised. Ellie grinned. This time Walter brought pastries for everyone, no questions asked. They ate, talked. Ellie drew a picture of the three of them, Denny with his cane shaped like a question mark, Irene with her hair in a perfect cloud, Walter with a crumpled paper in his coat pocket. Is that me? Walter asked. She nodded. It's pretty good. Bit too much hair, though. Ellie giggled. Then the tension returned. Because someone had to ask. Irene did. Honey, does your mom know you're here? Ellie paused. She said to wait nearby, and that if she wasn't back by noon, I should, make friends. They stared at each other. Make friends? Walter echoed. She said people are nicer in cafes than in parking lots. Silence, heavy and confused. Denny leaned forward. What's going on at home, kid? Ellie looked at her shoes. She's trying. She says that a lot. She's trying. Trying at what? Irene asked. Ellie didn't answer. Instead, she held up a drawing. It was a coffee cup. Inside it, instead of liquid, was a little girl, floating, holding a paper sail. The three adults looked at each other. For the first time, none of them had anything to say. But deep down, all three felt it. This wasn't about coffee anymore. It was about something, someone adrift. And they weren't about to let her float away. The rain started just after 11, a quiet tapping on the window panes like fingers trying to get in. Ellie pressed her nose to the glass. I like the sound, she whispered. White noise, Irene said. Calms the nerves. Denny rolled his eyes. It's called rain. They'd been at the table nearly 2 hours now, 3 coffees, 1 blueberry muffin, 4 drawings. 0 sign of Ellie's mother. Irene finally said it out loud. We should call someone. Ellie's head snapped around. No. Just to check, Irene added gently. A work number, or school, maybe a... She'll come. Ellie's voice was suddenly firm, almost frightened. She always does. Just late. Denny rubbed his temple. This ain't normal. Walter stayed quiet, folding a napkin between his fingers again and again. Maybe we should take her home, Irene said. Who's home? Denny barked. Yours? You barely like your cat. I don't dislike her, Irene snapped. She just poops in the ficus. This isn't about cats. Denny waved a hand. It's about doing what's right. What's right is not letting a little girl sit in a public cafe all day alone. I agree, Walter said, but that doesn't mean dragging her into our lives without knowing what we're stepping into. Irene turned to him. Oh, and what do you suggest? We just watch her sit there? I'm saying we ask better questions. Ellie, quiet between them, looked down. Her hand squeezed the strap of her backpack. "Like what?" Denny challenged. "Like why she keeps coming back here." They all looked at her. She didn't flinch. "Because this is the only place where people don't yell," she said, "except maybe right now." They froze. Then Walter, very slowly, reached into his coat pocket. Out came a photo, old, folded, frayed at the corners. He slid it across the table to Ellie. It showed 3 young teachers, arms around each other. One looked exactly like Walter. The woman in the center had wild red hair. "That's my sister," he said. Ellie blinked. Walter leaned in. "Her name was Melissa." Irene squinted. "Wait, Melissa was my sister. Ellie's mom is her daughter." Denny's jaw dropped. "What?" Ellie stared at the photo, lips trembling. "You said your last name was Carter," Walter said softly. She nodded. "My sister ran away after college, cut off the family. I only saw her once after that. She had a baby with her. Tiny thing, red curls." Ellie reached up and touched her hair like it was burning. "You knew?" Irene asked. "I suspected," Walter said, "but I didn't want to press. Until now." Denny stood. "This is too much. I came for coffee, not a family reunion." "You can leave," Irene snapped. "I'm not leaving her." They all looked at Ellie again. Her eyes were glassy, but she didn't cry. Walter touched her hand. "If you want the truth, I think you found us for a reason." And under the stormy light, something settled, not solved, but suspended. 3 people who'd spent their lives in routine now pulled into the orbit of a girl with too much silence and not enough time. She wasn't anyone's responsibility, but somehow she belonged to all of them. At 12:43, the door chimed again. A woman stepped in, breathless and soaked to the elbows, her black coat clinging to her like a shadow. She scanned the café like a threat was waiting. Her eyes landed on Ellie. "Thank God," she muttered, rushing forward. "Ellie, I told you not to talk to strangers." She froze as she noticed the 3 people around her daughter. Walter stood. His voice, though raspy, was steady. "Melissa's daughter?" The woman's face flickered. "Who?" "I'm her brother." She stepped back. "No, you're not. That man is dead." Walter didn't blink. "Guess death got delayed." Ellie looked between them. "Mom?" The woman ignored her. "This is crazy. I leave for 20 minutes." 3 hours, Irene cut in. She whipped around. "Excuse me?" 3 hours, Irene repeated, calm but firm. She waited quietly, drew pictures, didn't cry. "We just didn't want her sitting alone." "You think I'm a bad mother?" "No," Walter said. "I think you're a daughter who learned to disappear." That silenced the room. For a moment, the air itself felt like it cracked. The woman stared at Walter. "You have no right." "I didn't ask for one," he said. "But I never stopped wondering where you went, and I never stopped hoping." Ellie whispered, "Is it true?" Her mother exhaled, chest rising and falling like a storm pulling back. He looks just like her, the way she used to smile when she forgave people." Irene reached across and gently put a hand on the woman's arm. "Sit down. It's just coffee." And to everyone's surprise, including her own, she did. Denny got up, muttering, "I'll get another cup." Ellie watched as her mom slowly settled into the seat. It was quiet for a beat too long. Then Mother said, "I didn't mean to be gone so long. I couldn't breathe at home." Walter nodded. "You and Melissa had that in common. Ellie reached under the table and grabbed her mom's hand. It was trembling. The bell above the door rang again, but no one turned. They just sat there. A girl, a mother, a man who remembered, a woman who forgave, and a grump who brought sugar packets like offerings. Family in the strangest formation. Sometimes it just takes 3 coffees and a kid. In its place came a kind of quiet sunlight, the kind that drapes across windows like lace and makes people sit a little longer over breakfast. Irene had polished the brass handle on the café door herself. It squeaked a little less. Walter arrived first, early as always, dressed in a clean shirt with only a slight coffee stain. He carried a folded newspaper and a small box wrapped in brown paper and string. The waitress greeted him by name now. Denny came next. He grumbled about the traffic, even though he didn't drive. Bus was full of high schoolers, he muttered, sliding into his usual seat. One of them offered me his chair like I was ancient. You are, Walter said. I am not. You just called a 16-year-old a high schooler. You are. They didn't argue after that. They just sipped in peace. The easy silence of people who had lived enough to know silence could be kind. Irene came in through the back door, apron already on, cheeks flushed from the walk. She carried a tray of fresh scones. When the bell finally chimed at 9:07, every head turned. Ellie came in holding her mother's hand. Her hair was braided. Her backpack was pink with stickers of planets and cats. She wore a badge she'd made from cardboard. It said, Official Coffee Club Member. Hi, she said like she belonged. Her mother, Rachel, looked less like a shadow. She had color in her cheeks, a softness in her eyes that hadn't been there last week. They all stood, not like a ceremony, more like a reflex. Walter gave a half bow that made Ellie giggle. Rachel hesitated. We can leave if this is weird. No one leaves after making the scones, Irene said. Sit. I'll get the cocoa. Ellie chose the seat between Denny and Walter. She reached into her backpack and pulled out a drawing. 5 people around a round table. Everyone had huge eyes and tiny teacups. Even Denny was smiling. Walter handed her the little wrapped box. For me? She whispered. He nodded. A welcome gift, he said. She opened it carefully. Inside was a tiny wooden figurine, a hand-carved cat with a curled tail, painted in soft, worn colors. Underneath it, folded gently, was a photo. Rachel, as a child, holding a box of crayons beside a woman with Walter's smile. My sister, he said. She looked like you when she thought the world was good. Ellie cradled the cat in her palm. Her voice was small. Is it okay if I draw you all like this, even if we're not really family? Rachel put her hand over Ellie's. You can call people whatever you need to. Denny sniffed. Better than what I've been called. They laughed, and Irene set down a fresh plate of pastries. And for the first time in years, the cafe didn't feel like a stop on the way to somewhere else. It felt like a destination. A place where the past and present sat side by side, each with their own mug. Outside, the sky turned that strange gold that only appears when something has ended, and something else, maybe quieter, maybe more honest, has begun. As Ellie passed out napkins like tickets, and Walter explained the difference between biscotti and bricks, Irene leaned on the counter and watched them all. This wasn't the family she'd had, but it was the family that had found her back. And sometimes that's better. Because love doesn't always knock on your door. Sometimes it walks in carrying cocoa and a crayon drawing and asks if this seat is taken. Have you ever met someone who entered your life at just the right moment, even if they were a stranger? Share your thoughts or story in the comments. Sometimes one small gesture changes everything.